Good morning. This is X-Pulse AI Morning Mix. It's Saturday, April 4th, 2026. Today, OpenAI's jaw-dropping funding round, Anthropic's warning about a new model and cyber risk, and the infrastructure bottlenecks that could slow everyone down. I've got Orion here, ready to jump in.
Ready, let's do it.
We start with the biggest headline. Tech Story reported on April 3rd that OpenAI raised $122 billion at an $852 billion valuation. Orion, what do we know?
OpenAI says it's a $122 billion round, valuing the company at $852 billion. They're framing it as cementing OpenAI as foundational infrastructure, money that can go straight into compute, data center capacity, and pushing products faster.
That valuation is basically a small country. What changes first?
Scaling and reliability. With that war chest, you'd expect more capacity for enterprise workloads, more aggressive model training, and tighter integration across products. The subtext is also defensive. If you can fund the compute, you can keep the frontier lead.
Any knock-on effects for the rest of the ecosystem?
It intensifies concentration. When one platform can raise that much, it can outbid on talent, GPUs, and long-term power contracts, so smaller labs feel the squeeze, and partners down the stack, from chips to networking, get pulled into bigger, longer commitments.
Staying at the frontier, CNN reported on April 3rd that Anthropic is opening limited testing for its upcoming model, Mythos, while privately warning officials it could enable a new wave of AI-driven cyberattacks. Orion, what's the core concern?
The warning is that more capable models can help find, chain, and exploit vulnerabilities at scale. Think faster recon, better exploit ideas, and more convincing social engineering. Anthropic is positioning early access as a way to harden defenses, but they're signaling the risk curve is rising.
So is limited testing a safety move or a marketing move?
Both can be true. Limited testing can mean careful partner selection, monitoring, and red teaming. But it also creates urgency and buzz. The important part is whether access comes with strong controls, logging, abuse monitoring, and clear rules on dual-use security research.
What should listeners watch for as Mythos gets closer?
Signals about mitigations, not just capability. If Anthropic starts talking more about model behavior documentation, eval results on cybersecurity tasks, and how they gate high-risk features, that's the tell. Otherwise, we're just adding horsepower to a very creative attacker base.
Now the less glamorous limiter, electricity and parts. Tom's Hardware reported on April 3rd that roughly half of planned U.S. data center projects have been delayed or canceled. Orion, what's jamming things up?
Two big constraints: power infrastructure and component shortages, some tied to supply chains that still run through China. Even if you have GPUs, you need transformers, switchgear, cooling gear, and interconnects, plus enough grid capacity and permits to turn the lights on.
Does this change where AI gets built?
Yes, hyperscalers will chase regions with faster interconnect, friendlier permitting, and available megawatts. You also get more creative options, modular builds, retrofits of existing sites, and sometimes shifting capacity overseas. The bottleneck isn't imagination, it's infrastructure lead times.
What's the practical impact on model rollouts?
Timing and price. If capacity growth slows, you may see tighter quotas, higher inference costs, and more prioritization of premium tiers. It's the unsexy truth. Your AI strategy still depends on power, concrete, and parts arriving on time.
On the chip side, CNBC reported on April 3rd that Chinese semiconductor firms hit record revenue driven by the AI boom and U.S. curbs. Orion, what's driving the growth?
Domestic demand plus forced substitution. Export restrictions push Chinese cloud and AI developers to lock in local suppliers, and companies like More Threads are guiding steep year-over-year revenue increases for 2025. The policy pressure effectively accelerates a homegrown stack.
How does that ripple into global competition?
It widens the split between supply chains. In the near term, China buys and builds what it can locally. Over time, that can create parallel ecosystems, tools, libraries, and hardware targets. For global firms, it complicates planning. You're optimizing for multiple default platforms.
Is this mostly about training chips or everything around them?
It's broader than GPUs, networking, packaging, memory interfaces, and the software that makes hardware usable. Even if the top-end performance lags, volume adoption can fund iteration. The headline isn't "they caught up," it's "they're scaling a domestic market fast."
Let's hit policy. Axios reported on April 3rd that California rolled out new AI rules and orders that could turn the state into a national testing ground. Orion, what are companies reacting to?
The big reaction is uncertainty plus inevitability. California tends to set de facto national standards because businesses can't easily ignore the market. Axios noted Google and Anthropic declined to comment, while OpenAI welcomed Governor Newsom's leadership, so you're seeing careful positioning.
When rules land at the state level, what gets messy?
Compliance fragmentation. If different states define transparency, safety testing, or documentation differently, you end up building multiple versions of the same governance process. The fastest mover can shape the template, so California's wording may echo far beyond California.
What should listeners look for in the next few months?
Whether it becomes operational, not symbolic, things like reporting requirements, procurement standards, and enforcement mechanisms. Also watch how firms standardize documentation and audit trails. The winning strategy might be boring. Build one rigorous process you can reuse everywhere.
A few more items worth your attention. Government Technology reported on April 2nd that a White House national AI framework leans toward guidance over strict regulation. How does that interact with states like California?
It signals a lighter federal touch, more documentation, audit trails, procurement standards, and workforce training, rather than sweeping new rules. That vacuum can invite states to move faster, which raises the odds of a patchwork, unless there's alignment on shared templates and reporting norms.
Meanwhile, Microsoft had a busy couple of days. Startup News on April 2nd said Copilot is adding a critique multi-model feature, and eWeek on April 3rd says Microsoft aims to build frontier models by 2027. What's the vibe?
Microsoft is trying to own the workflow and eventually more of the model stack. Critique comparing multiple models bakes model selection into the product. And the 2027 Frontier plan is the independence move. Fewer single supplier risks, more negotiating leverage. Plus, of course, a shot at the crown.
On infrastructure and money, Financial Content on April 3rd highlighted Broadcom earnings tied to AI demand. Techie, the same day, said Cerebras is targeting a $2 billion IPO, and SiliconANGLE, citing PitchBook, said Q1 U.S. venture hit $267 billion. Plus, the information via tech startups says Anthropic bought Coefficient Bio for about $400 million, and Healthcare Dive on April 2nd cites a JAMA-backed study on AI scribes. Orion, connect the dots?
The dots spell AI becomes industrial. Broadcom shows the picks and shovels boom beyond GPUs. Cerebras going public spotlights alternatives to NVIDIA. PitchBook's numbers show capital clustering into a few mega platforms. Anthropic buying into drug discovery is vertical expansion. An AI scribe saving about 15 minutes a day is the quiet adoption story. Less hype, more hours back.
That's XPulse AI Morning Mix from XPulse for Saturday, April 4th, 2026. If this helped you, share it with a colleague who likes their AI news strong and their calendars intact. See you next time.